Hi everyone, Niamh here, and I'm thinking of starting a new little series here. I don't know how long it's gonna, how many videos it's going to be, or I haven't really quite planned it out, but I kind of wanted to start something where I was explaining Tableau style reading. And what I mean by that is kind of Lenormand style reading, of reading in a grid. So you could also call it grid style reading. And because I've mentioned it quite a bit in a lot of my different videos, talking about how I use this deck or this deck like a Lenormand, or I use Lenormand, and I felt like I needed to just kind of explain what I mean by that, and explain what I mean when I say I read a deck that's not a Lenormand like a Lenormand. So yeah, so I thought I'd give this a shot and see where this takes me. All right.
All right, so we are going to do some Tableau style reading. We're going to cover what it means when I say Tableau style or grid style, when I say I'm reading cards like a Lenormand, or and a little bit. This is a little bit of an intro to Lenormand as well, but like it's more a general style of reading that I kind of want to go over. So I don't know how long this is going to be. I'm kind of just coming up with this on the spot. I wrote down a little bit of an outline here to just kind of help guide me a little bit. I don't know how many parts there are going to be of this, but so starting off, let me grab a Lenormand deck, and I have my Bitmoji here. We'll go with this one. I also have another Lenormand out too, in case I want to switch. But all right, I have my Bitmoji Lenormand here, and this is my character. This is the heart, home, tree. And this is back when I had purple and blue hair, so that's why my character is purple and blue hair. But yeah, so it's really cute. You can make one of these yourself using Bitmoji characters and going on MakePlayingCards. And I like this because it's, I think this is the 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch square cards. I think that's what they are. It's like the mini square cards. And speaking of mini, that is what I prefer for this style of reading. I prefer mini cards. I prefer cards that are quite small. And I do have larger Lenormands, but I'm not as much of a fan of those. Because, you know, with Lenormand or, you know, other card systems that I use like this in that Tableau style or grid style way, it tends to be large readings, and because of that, they take up a lot of space. So I really prefer a nice small deck with Lenormand. I'm not going to go into details of Lenormand because this isn't exactly what this is about. And maybe in the future I will. Maybe I'll do a whole Lenormand series. We'll see. But Lenormand is meant to be read with the other cards around it. So you can't necessarily have just one card. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You know, your way of reading is your way of reading, and you can have just one card and read that way. But that's not exactly how it's sort of meant to be read, or how they're kind of designed. And again, you can do whatever you want. But it's meant to be read with the other cards around it. And so in my mind, the smallest Lenormand reading you can do is a 2-card reading. All right, so I think this is garden. So we could read this as very specific and like a sunny day outside, you know, a sunny day to be in the garden. Like that's a very specific reading. Or you can have something a little bit more, or something comes to light about your social group. You know, there's very little context here, so you can go in lots of different directions with this. And that's part of the downside of such a small reading here is we're not getting a lot of context from this. And I would say the 2-card reading is the smallest Lenormand reading you can do. And I almost never do a 2 card because it's such little information. Now you can read this as a story progression. This card describes this card. This is the noun. This is the adjective. We can do it like that. Yeah, because I sort of, the first way that I read this was it's a sunny day outside, or it's a good day to be out in the yard, out in the garden. You could do that. Or, like I said, you could say something comes to light about, this is the subject matter. This is what happens to it. Something's coming to light about your social group or a social situation. Or let's see, we can say there's something yellow, because this is the adjective and this is the noun. I'm trying to think of what the garden would represent. It could literally be a plant, a yellow plant, or I wouldn't call this because you could possibly read it as a dying plant, but not with the sun. Maybe with the coffin, or this actually could be a positive thing. This could be a potted plant, And again, because we're only talking about 2 cards here, it's hard to say what this even is about. So, the next step would be to do a 3 card reading. So let me see if I can pull out another plant card, but let's switch it up. Actually, let's go. Well, no, we'll keep these ones out since that's what I initially put, but let me do something else. Okay, heart. Okay, we can do something positive there. So something comes to light about your social group that makes you feel good, and it's good. It's something good, that's one way you can read it. With a 3 card, you can also choose a center card and then get the cards before and after it that describes this. Like, this is the main focus, and then these 2 are describing this. You could do something like that. And this is kind of where I'm going with this, and for this one, let's say you really want to get some information about, information about maybe yourself. So, I'll search for my significator card in this, and so I want to pull out specifically the card for me. So let's see. Here I am, right here. So here I am, and then I pull the card before it and the card after it to read what is going on. Oh, I'm very happy about my marriage, because this is ring. It doesn't necessarily mean marriage, but I love and then in this deck I also have my husband, and it's actually just me, but because you can't have multiple characters, so it's my exact self. I just mirrored it, and then I changed the way my Bitmoji looked. My husband actually has a beard, but they had no beard options. I don't know if they have that now, but they didn't when I made this, so I just made a male version of it. Was my same character, and if you look closely, it actually does have a little bit. It's got eye makeup on and stuff. Oh, it's not focused, but yeah, so that's kind of funny because I forgot to take off the eye makeup. But anyway, so this is quite positive, but maybe we can find something different. Let's see. So something about my day or something. Let's see. We've got the book here. It could specifically be talking about, my studies, or it could be talking about book can represent knowledge. It can represent studying. It can represent secrets that you have to uncover. It can represent hidden knowledge, or it's not exactly bad or positive. Yeah, anyway. So let's see, I got the scythe. Well, this whole week I haven't really been doing a lot of studying. It's kind of been a slow week for studying here, so maybe I'm feeling like this studying has been cut too short, you know. There you go. So there's lots of different ways you can read a 3-card reading. You can pick the card in the center, and then the cards around it kind of add to that information, or you can pick random 3 cards, and you can read it like a sentence, because that's one of the things with Lenormand. It's like a sentence. So something has evolved into a, so the stork to me represents something that's, it's a kind of a positive evolution. It's a change, but it tends to be a progression. So there's a progression. So something has progressed, and we've set news forth, and it has blossomed into something, because the lily to me is a card that represents purity or wisdom. It can represent something positive in a sexual way, whereas I have the whip card would be a sexual, it depends on what the context, of course. The whip card can represent more kinky kind of stuff, whereas the lily for me is something more pure and you know, respectful, I guess. I don't know if that's the right adjective I'm looking for, but yeah. So I mean, to me, this would indicate something about general positive or news that helps progress something that's you know, it's not this, the lily is long standing. It's not old. It is old, but it's not like stuck old, if that makes sense. It can also represent older people, so I could see this as connecting with an older person, like a grandparent or something. There are lots of different ways to read it depending on the context. All right, so that's 2 cards and 3 cards. Now, there are other smaller spreads that I want to explore, but I may do that in a follow-up video. But moving from the 2 and 3 card, then the next step is the 9 card box. And I think I'm going to grab a different Lenormand for this, because I think I've done it looking at my Bitmoji. So this is another deck that I created, and it's the same size. It's that square size, but it's my Ghibli Lenormand. And I made the bag a little larger than the cards, because I'm planning on making a larger version of this that's more bridge size. That way I can have, and I would probably have both of them in this bag together, but I made this big enough to fit the bridge size cards. But anyway, I can't sell these or anything, obviously, because I don't own the rights to Ghibli. But yeah, anyway, so a 9 card box, it's also called a box or a portrait. And here's the thing, each of these smaller spreads are viewed as smaller versions or portions of the grand tableau. That's how I view them. And me explaining all of this, it's more, I'm talking about how I read these cards, okay? So lots of different people are going to have different ways of doing it. They're going to have different associations with the layouts. These are just my interpretations. It's how I read cards in a tableau style, or a grid style. So a 9 card box is, you can start like before, where you pick out a center card and then pull the 4 before it and the 4 after that. You could do that. Or you can just lay them out. I tend to prefer just laying them out, starting at the top here. Oh, hopefully that's focused there. Like this. I might want to zoom in on these a little bit. I zoomed this out because I was going to be doing large spreads, but maybe I should zoom this in. All right, hopefully that's okay. I only zoomed in just a little bit, but all right. So, I mean, this is one layout that you could do. And this is probably my most used layout, a 9 card box. And I lay it out like this, left to right, top to bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A lot of people will lay the first card first, whether they're specifically choosing it or they lay it down. They lay this one down first, and then they lay down all of these after that. That's another way to do it. Again, it's personal preference. And with all of this, as you know, you can read these however you want, in whatever order you want, whatever makes sense for you. The key here is to just be consistent. So I like to start from here and going like this. And that's just how I do it. I start here and I pull for each of these. Oops, sorry, I'm bumping the camera. But So this is a layout here, and we got the with the 9-card box. It's a smaller version of the Grand Tableau. So you could also call this a petite Grand Tableau, a petite tableau. Yeah, there we go. A petite tableau. That's one way of referring to this, or a mini tableau, etc. It's also called a box or a portrait. I like to use the term box. So this is a box to me. And you can see that it is in a grid system. Now, before I go through the details of the box and how to read a box, I just wanted to kind of go back a little bit and talk about that grid style system. So in tarot, we can have layouts in every different which way. And in fact, I just pulled out a deck. Here is the Desert Illuminations deck with the cool bag that I made for it. And I just grabbed this because it was one of the first ones I saw. And the tarot cards in here are standard size. So I kind of wanted to just grab standard size tarot and show what I mean by this. Like, so with a tarot, you can lay cards out in every direction. Like, let me set this to the side real quick. Like, you can have a 3-card reading in tarot like this. You can, and it can be in a grid system like that. That's fine. Grid meaning, you know, imagine that there's a grid going on right here, and that's maybe another way you can call the tableau style that I'm talking about here, because tableau style, you could have, it doesn't necessarily mean a grid. When I say tableau style, I'm talking about a grid. So that's, I just want to clarify that, you know, because other people might say tableau style and they kind of just mean there's a certain order to it. Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to do a very good job explaining that, but like, so this is a basic grid. The 9-card box, if it wasn't all wonky like that, but is a grid. You can do a 9-card box with a tarot. There's too much, these are too large for this. Oh, I grabbed exactly 9 cards. Nice. So you could do that with tarot. With tarot, you're very free. You can do things in different directions. You can have them all sideways. You can have them layered on top of each other. You can do whatever you want. Any sort of layout you want, you can do with tarot. And of course, like I said, you can do this with any deck system. I'm saying that this is how, you know, they're kind of meant. There's a freeness with tarot that you can read it. You can layer on top of each other, like this. And again, you could do the same thing with Lenormand if that's how you read, but that's not how I read. So that's why I'm clarifying this. You can go in the middle, like 1, 2, 3, like etc. So that's you know, you're very free with that with tarot. And you know, I have seen other Lenormand readers who do who break from this grid and read in similar sorts of ways. Like they might do something like that, you know, like a pyramid of some sort. I don't like that. Like, to me, this hurts my brain. You know, so, and I think I'm relaying this down here, but so, you know, breaking from the grid kind of hurts my brain when it comes to Lenormand. so I like to stick to a grid. To me, that's what makes the most sense. That's where my mind is. So a 9-card box is like that. So I'm going to briefly go over how one would read a 9-card box. The first thing I look at with a 9-card box is what's in the center. And let me focus this here. There we go. So the center here is bouquet. So that tends to be something positive, or gifts. Yeah, and bouquet. And these are the flowers from Spirited Away, the bouquet of flowers she had in the beginning of the film. So, and when I read tableau style, I read like this. I'm reading as if it's going like this. This is the main focus. The course of energy is going from this card to this card. So this is the beginning, this is the end. This is the entrance card, this is the exit card. And a lot of how I started using Lenormand, and you know, where I learned it from, a lot of my inspiration has been Lisa Young Sutton, and she's on YouTube here. You can find her YouTube channel. She has great videos, and she also has a book. I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I'll put the name of that book on the screen. And I love that book, and that has been my main inspiration for Lenormand reading, and so I highly recommend it. But as with any style of card reading like this, you can kind of go off in your own way, So that was my basis, was how she interprets the cards, how she reads it, and then I've sort of built upon that for myself. But yeah, so and this is basically coming from her style here, where this is the main focus. The diagonal here is the main focus. So the center card is the focus of this reading. Then I'll look at the progression, because that's what jumps out at me first. And we have this as dog, bouquet, and I believe this is tower. So we could, tower often represents for me, like more institutionalized things. I like to, so because of that, I do often connect jobs, like more formal type of jobs, to the tower card. Other people have that as representing different cards in the deck. Anchor is often used for money or jobs. Fish, it depends on what you're thinking about with that. Well, I think of the tower in Lenormand as like institutions. So we've got a gift from a friend that maybe they came to my place of work, maybe it was given at a building, or there's something having to do with some sort of institution. Of course, this is just a made up scenario here. There's nothing to this, but I'm just kind of giving a sort of sample interpretation here. So then I would read this, and then this tends to be the past, this is the present, this is the future. This is the influences, this is the reality, this is the foundation. So there we go. So that's honestly, basically the layout that I use for pretty much any grid style reading with Lenormand or other decks that I read like a Lenormand. So past, present, future, influences, reality, foundation. This is what's the foundation for what is the reality, and this is the influences, which could all be your hopes and fears. It's whatever's influencing. It's what we're thinking about. This is what's weighing on our mind, whether that's good or bad. It's on our mind. This is the reality, and this is the foundation. What's building up. And then the other diagonal, which I do read this way, this is sort of, so this is the primary diagonal. This is the secondary diagonal. And this card over here, right here, is the hidden influences. This is what's it's kind of what's in your rear view, like, it's kind of what's in your blind spot. And that's what I'm sort of getting with that. It's your blind spot. It's definitely having an influence on things, and you kind of read this as the hidden influences line, primarily this card. This is what you're not quite thinking about, but it's having an influence on things, if that makes sense. So there we go. That tends to be how I read a 9-card box. And then I also, if there's important cards in here, so maybe somehow I want to know more about this, my friend here, because this is the dog, then I might want to see what knights with this. So we've got the book, and we've got the mice. Okay, so they're giving something to me. They're offering something up. Maybe it's actually something that's sort of harming them. Maybe like there's a certain sacrifice maybe going on. But it's a small sacrifice, because mice is a small sacrifice. Like it's not a big sacrifice, but it's something you can appreciate for sure. So that might be something I would look at. Yeah, and this positive things about the social situation. Maybe, this is the birds being in the hidden influences. Maybe this is, something a little birdie told them about this. And maybe they're trying to soften the a negative influence, because that's the snake, So there's all sorts of ways I can read about this, but I'm coming up with a made up scenario here. So like that's the basics of a 9-card box. We got the past, present, future, influences, reality, foundation, the main flow of energy. The actual. If you're just looking at a quick reading, I would just read this diagonal. I would go like that. And then if you want to have a little bit of further information, you can see what's going on here, what's sort of behind the scenes, and then knight a few of the important cards. So there we go. Now there is also a 6-card layout and a 5-card line, just 5 cards going like this. Like that, which again, you can lay out however you feel comfortable, as long as you're consistent and you set your intentions before you actually lay out your cards. You lay them out. You're like, I'm going to lay it out this way. It's representing this. There you go. As long as you set your intentions beforehand and you are consistent in what you do, whatever way that you do it, as long as you're consistent and you've set your intentions before you've laid it out, then it doesn't matter whether you lay out this card first and then you lay out these ones, or if you lay them out in a line like that. It doesn't matter. So as long as you're consistent. Now, one of the things I'll say here with the 5-card is I have seen a lot of people who, if they're specifically pulling out this center card, like they were searching for the sun card, and they specifically pull out this the sun card, a lot of them will move this one off the grid. And maybe I'll do it this way, so it's, because if I do it this way, the light is kind of washing it out a little bit. I don't know. We'll do it that way. So they will break the grid by moving it like that. And that's just a mental note to let the reader know that this card was specifically chosen. Like, this card was specifically chosen, and then the other cards were laid out. And I've seen some people do that, or do a full-on V shape. And again, this breaks the grid. So I don't personally like to do it like that, just because I like to leave the grid, so I don't like to break the grid, and I guess that's what we'll call it. We'll call it breaking the grid. Copyright Neve Dabled. But anyway, so, and there are ways to read this, with a 5-card layout like this. You could do sort of past, present, and future. One way you could do that is, this is what's going on right now. This is the near past, near future, far past, far future, or closest influences, further away influences. You can read it like that. And that actually is a way that I have read a 5-card line like this before, where it's and this is kind of called the method of distance, which Lisa talks about a lot in her videos, so definitely go check out her videos. But what's closest to the core card is what's influencing it the most, and what's further away isn't as influential. So a 5-card line like this is actually pretty good for those sorts of readings, because you can get the situation here now. You can get close influences, what happened in the past that's really influencing it, and what's near to the future, going along the same path we're going on right now. If this path is continued, here's in the near future, and this is further off. And this was further off past influences that are still there. They're still affecting the situation. It's just further in the back. I hope that makes sense. So that's one way to read it, or you can read it straight up like a story progression. Starts here, then this, then this, then this, and ends with this. You can read it like that. You can mirror cards. So these two cards are read together. These two cards are read together. And this is the core center. Lots of different ways you can do that. So a line is useful. I think a 5-card is more useful personally than a 3-card. A 3-card isn't... if you're really looking for a quick answer, sure. But I like a little bit more context, so I do kind of like having a 5-card. So, I think in a future video, I will go over more small spreads, more small tableaus, mini tableaus. But I just want to move on to the next section here. So, tableaus, the grand tableaus. Okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna I think I will lay out, but I just kind of want to give just a few examples of grand tableaus. So, okay, hopefully I'm mostly in frame here. I think I am. But yeah, so I've laid out all 36 cards from my Bitmoji Lenormand here, and this is an 8x4 plus 4. That's what this layout is called, and it is the most traditional of the grand tableaus. 8 cards this way, by four rows with 4 cards at the bottom. And it's got a similar, and this tends to be what I prefer to read. Okay, so like I'm not going to go too much in detail on the specifics on how to read a grand tableau. I'm kind of just explaining that what the different types of tableaus are, and they're mostly read pretty similarly, at least for me. But because there are different layouts, it does require a different sorts of ways of reading it. I don't know if that made sense. Breaking it down, what I would start off with a grand tableau, I would first read the first 3 cards, and that is kind of the entranceway. And then down here is the fate line, which is kind of, the summary of everything. Okay? And then we do have a general energy of this is the beginning, this is the end. Okay, and this is, to me, is the end card. So this is the beginning card, this is the end card. We've got to start off with the fox, we end with the ring. Okay, so that's one way you would read it. And you can read the corners, these corners, and then these corners to represent, these would be the main ones to read, and then these would be the secondary. And again, the fate line down here at the bottom is kind of a summary of everything. Now, the center 4 cards here is the heart of the matter. It's like the center card in, like, say, a 9-card box. The center card is the core, the heart of the issue. This is the heart of the issue in a grand tableau. It's these 4 cards. This is the heart of the issue. And in general, these are more past. This is more future. If you're asking a very specific question, you might find a specific card and read from there, and you could do method of distance, etc. I'm trying not to go too much in detail here and bog down this information, but just kind of a general introduction, I guess, is what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, and then in this, you can find boxes. So let's say, right here's the card to represent my partner, my husband. So I would read the box that's around here. That is a 9-card box. He's the focus, and I would read it based on that. Here I am down here in the fate line. So I only have I only have a partial box. Now, one way you could do that, I've seen people use this and then go up right here, and these are the next 3 cards of that box. That's one way you can do it. I don't tend to do it that way, but I have seen people do it that way. So if you decide to do it that way, you just be consistent. Just be consistent in the ways that you do things. So I would read these cards right here, and it would probably turn into just a 6-card reading for me, which is one of the other layouts that I'll talk about in a upcoming video when I talk about the other types of spreads in Lenormand. So if there's anything else that I want to know about, say I want to know something about my home, I can then night my home. Maybe I'm feeling stuffed up in my home right now because, it's nighting with coffin here. It's boxed up. There's all sorts of negative things here. And these I just laid out. So, I didn't shuffle these really, but, but yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. You can start to night important cards, something that stands out. I would be careful not to overnighting things, because you can just keep going and keep going and keep going. And then, of course, you add on the added layer of houses, but that'll be for a future video, I think. So you can lay cards underneath, basically have the cards 1 through 36 laid out, and like this would be, the fox would be in the house of writer. And if you do it that way, again, just set your intentions before you do it. And there you go. All right, so that's one of the layouts for a grand tableau. Another one would be a 9x4, and this is a very popular one because it does make it more even. I'm just gonna try to move things over just a little bit so that I can squeeze in these cards on the side. So a 9x4 is just like this, except there's 9 cards, nine columns and 4 rows. So do it like that, and I'm running out of space here. Sorry. Yeah, you can't really see this, but I don't think so. I'm underneath the camera. But so there would be a 9x4. And of course, I think a different size card would work better for this. Something a little, because these are square, you know, it's, this seems really stretched out going it like this. But I tend not to like a 9x4. That's not my go-to, but I know Kelly at The Truth of the Story, she likes to do a 9x4. I really prefer the 8x4 plus the 4 at the bottom. That's my own personal thing there. But what's nice about a 9x4 is we've got 1, 2, 3 kind of mini tableaus, and instead of them being a 9 card box, they are a 3x4 card box. So we've got 3 of those. So that's one way you can break that up. And then I'm going to show real quick the other grand tableau that I do. Okay, finally got this laid out. Now hopefully you can see, like, it's a little bit out of frame here, but I do the best I can with grand tableaus here. So I don't know if you've counted, but this is a 6x6. So that's 3, those are the 3 main grand tableaus that I use. The 8x4 plus 4, the 9x4, which is my least used one, and then the 6x6. Now, this is something that I do not see very many other people using. I usually just see other people using the first 2. Now, I have a very specific purpose for this layout. I use a 6x6 only for year ahead spreads. And the reason for that is it's very nice and neat. You know? And we've got 4 boxes. It's made up of 4 distinct boxes. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 1 9 card box here. There's 1 9 card box here. There's 1 9 card box here and 1 9 card box here. And none of them overlap with each other. They are distinct boxes. So I use them to represent 4 sections of the year, the 4 seasons maybe, the 4 quarters of the year. And you can lay out this reading whenever in the year, and it generally represents the first 3 months after, you know, from that reading. The first 3 months, next 3 months, next 3 months, last 3 months. So that's generally how I read that. There's a nice diagonal both ways that I do like to read. There's a center 4 cards that are, it's just a nice, neat layout. So I very much enjoy using this layout specifically for year ahead readings for people. And I've done this reading for a few clients, year ahead spreads like this. So this is how the year is starting, and I do pay attention to the first 3 cards as the entrance of that reading, and then the last 3 cards as the exit of that reading. The center 4 are the heart of the year. That's really where a lot of, you know, the core of the year would be the center 4 cards, you know. And then we do have two columns for past, present, future. Well, if we're doing it a year ahead, because I don't think I do it that way. I would do this as the first third, next third, last third, something like that. So this would be the start and this is the end of the year. Yeah, so that's generally the only reason I use a 6x6. But man, it is nice and neat and pretty. And a lot of times I'll pull extra cards from other decks to give further information on this box and further information on this box. And I do use the knighting and things like that, but I think a little bit less so, because to me, a 6x6 Grand Tableau here is very specific. It's a timing thing for me. The 6x6, it just works very well for a timing reading. All right. Now, I've gone over the different types of layouts, and, there's a bunch more. I'm just trying to keep this concise, and I will have further videos. If there's any specific layout you want to know more about, please let me know down in the comments, and I will be happy to do a follow-up videos on this. I don't have a set series for this, but I do want this to be an ongoing discussion, ongoing series. So the main reason I wanted to do this video is because of a different deck, and it is this deck here, the Mildred Payne's Secret Pocket Oracle. This is not a Lenormand. There are 88 cards in here, and I'll pull them out, and I'll probably zoom in a little bit now that we're not doing Grand Tableaus anymore. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is probably my favorite little oracle. Now, it's much larger than a Lenormand. There are 88 cards in this deck. And I do plan to do lots more videos on this. But I wanted to do this video because I have mentioned this deck quite a bit. And I've talked about how I use this deck like a Lenormand. And what I mean by that is I use the grid system with this. I usually use a 9-card box with this. And of course, since this is not Lenormand, it does not have the same interpretations necessarily. Now, because of the way that I read this deck, like a Lenormand, the snake card kind of means the same thing in that deck versus this deck. So it means the same thing. If there's the same cards, I try to read them the same way. So tree is also in both a Lenormand and in this deck. This deck does not have set meanings for these cards. However, there is a print-off that it comes with suggested meanings for these cards. But it does very much encourage you to come up with your own meanings, and I love that. So I use this. This is just a good little workhorse deck. I use it like a Lenormand. I read it the same way that I read Lenormand. It's its own little system. And there's 88 cards. So obviously it's a little bit different. So I do the 9-card boxes. I do the past, present, future, influences, reality, foundation, the flow of energy, the heart of the matter, the hidden influences line, the secondary diagonal with the what's not being seen, the hidden influence here, etc. I do all of that with this. But because it's a totally different system, it's its own thing, and I'm largely coming up with the meanings myself, and there's not 36 cards, so a traditional Grand Tableau is not something that I typically do with this deck. So I've had to be more open to other layouts with this deck versus what I normally use with Lenormand. Because I pretty much, with Lenormand, I largely use either a 3-card, a 5-card, a 9-card box, or a Grand Tableau, depending on what I'm using it for. And usually the 8x4+4 or the 6x6. That tends to be the only things that I actually use Lenormand for. Sometimes a 6-card, but yeah. So I've been more open to other types of petite tableaus. Petite tableaus, mini tableaus, whatever you want to call it. And some of my favorites have been, and I'm going to quickly go over these because I'll probably go more in depth in future videos, but one of the layouts that I like to do with this is it's an 18-card layout, and it is 5 across, 3 down, and then an added 3 at the bottom. So it's just like the 8x4+4, but it's a smaller version of that. And let me lay that out real quick. Okay, so here's a mini version of that. Because it does feel, I have laid out 36 card grand tableaus with this deck, but it feels odd because it feels like those layouts aren't meant for this, particularly because I have a whole bunch of cards left over after I lay out 36 cards, right? So I kind of have to take a different approach. And I do like this little reading here. This is it's an 18 card mini tableau or petite tableau, however you want to call it. And then we've got 3 rows of 5. So we've got 5, lines of 5, you know, and so I do like that line of 5 reading. So we've got that center card. These are the influences. This is the reality of the situation right here. This is the foundation, and then this is the fate line, or the you know, what wraps it all up. What the summary of everything. That's kind of how I interpret the bottom 3 cards. So yeah, that totally works. And then we've got these 2 columns here represent the past. So or if we're starting from the beginning of a situation, the beginning of the situation, the middle of the situation, and then the ending. And then the middle row here is the reality of the situation, of course. So a general flow of energy going like this, and that's how I read Lenormand. That's how I read this grid style or tableau style reading. Is this is the beginning, this is the end, and it's a flow of energy going this way. So yeah, I love this layout. Another layout is to do, you know, and you have the 9 card box right here. You have a 9 card box with a little bit of added information on either side. So another thing you could do, you can have a 9 card box and then have it. This is what's called an extended box, and this is also in Lenormand. So we've got the 9 card box here, and then it's basically you got a frame all around the 9 card box. I'm sure that's out of frame. Maybe, like, let's see. Yeah, it's out of frame, but that's the best I can do there. so you've got the 9 card box in the middle here, and then you have an added layer on the outside. So it's an extended box. It is a 5 by 5, yeah, 5 by 5 is an extended box, and that's also in Lenormand. I've seen lots of people do an extended box like that, but I've used it for this deck as well. So another way that I use this deck, so let's say myself or a client has a query. I want to know about this. So I'll shuffle my cards, lay out a 9 card box, because that tends to be my go-to, and I know I'm zoomed out, but that's okay. So I'll lay out a 9 card box here real quick. And this kind of answers just the initial question. You know, I want to know about this. All right, here's the 9 card box. It kind of just gives a rundown of the situation. Okay, great. Okay, now I have a follow-up question. So I do not shuffle. Any shuffling I do before this thing is very specific to this query. So I shuffle this until I feel that I'm done and that the cards are are in a position that is referencing the situation. So they ask me the question. I lay out the initial 9 card box. This is the important box. This is what is answering the question. But they have a follow-up, and I've given myself a rule that I can't have more than 2 follow-ups with this because we don't want to go too far. So they have a follow-up question. I could start pulling straight from the top and do another 9 card box to answer that follow-up question. But the follow-up question, it's still related to what's going on in here that I've already preset this deck to. But I don't know what the follow-up question is going to be. So when they ask me a follow-up question along with this, I intuitively split the deck where it feels right. I might do real close to the top, or I might do real close to the bottom. I might do somewhere in the middle. Let's say I intuitively cut the deck right here, and I move this to the back like that. There we go. And now I'm answering the next, the follow-up question. These are still in the layout pertaining, and this is now 2 separate readings. Like I'm not These are not connected to each other like that. I'm just moving it off to the side. That's why I'm putting a big gap between there so that we know that these, I'm not reading this like this, you know, doing the knighting where it's from here to here. Like these are separate. They're still connected, so it's still part. It's still in the frame, but it is its own separate reading. So this answers follow-up question number 1. And then I can do it one more time. Well, they would ask me one last follow-up question pertaining to this situation, because I don't want to do this over and over and over again. So I've kind of given myself that rule that 2 follow-up questions per shuffle, basically. So follow-up question number 2, I'm going to say I'm going to split right here. All right, follow-up question number 2 is this one. And this is what's kind of giving more information about that follow-up question. So that's, and you see I'm keeping the grid style, and that's all what this series is about for me here, is talking about this grid style reading. I personally do not like to break the grid. But that, you know, other people who have read Lenormand are totally fine breaking the grid, or it helps them, you know, if they've pre-selected a card, you know, it helps them know that that is a pre-selected card, so they'll break the grid. And all of that I completely understand. Just for me, I like to keep when I do a grid style reading, a grid style tableau reading, I don't like to break the grid. So that's my own personal take. Now, because, you know, this is, the number of cards in this is 88, I could lay out a grid using all 88 cards, you know, like an 11 by 8 or whatever. I could do that, but I honestly, like, to me, this is not meant for every single card to be out on the table. For me, this is meant for smaller tableau-style readings. And by smaller, I don't mean really small. Like, I feel like a 3 card would be not enough information. And a 5 card maybe even not enough information, personally. But a 9 card box is really the starting point for me with this deck. A 9 card box, the 18 card little mini tableau is great. 25 card extended box, fantastic. Those style or the 9 card with the 2 follow-up 9 card questions. Like, that's what I like to use this deck for. Now, you know, we're coming up on 50 minutes here, so I'm gonna try to speed this up and say that you can use this with the grid style system with other decks. Like, you can use a tarot. I grabbed one of the small ones here, so because it's a tableau style. You can do the same sort of grid style reading with a like, these cards kind of stick together, with a tableau, with tarot cards in a tableau style reading. But because tarot cards tend to be larger, you know, I tend to stick, if I'm going to read a tarot in a tableau style, I usually stick with like bigger decks. I use as either 3 cards or 6 card readings like this. That tends to be what I like to use, and I'll talk further about, you know, how to read the smaller size spreads in future videos, I think. But like, you can do the same thing with a tarot. So especially if you have a tarot that's small, that's a mini size like that, because I also have the Morgan Greer pocket version, and I have the pocket version of the Prisma Visions here, and these would also be great for tableau style reading with tarot. Yeah, and then, you know, you can also use playing cards. You know, I tend to go a different route with playing cards. I don't necessarily like to do grid style reading with this. In fact, what I found what I like the most with playing cards is waterfall style. So it definitely breaks a grid, you know. And I like to do waterfall style readings with playing cards. So that's a little bit my go-to here. And then, you know, there's other smaller oracle decks here. This is the Morrigan Oracle. There's a reading 5 card that I like to do with this, and I do break the grid with this one. I lay it out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. And then I actually break the grid with this one. So here's one where I break my own rule, you know, and I like to do this way because it looks like a bird in flight. And when we connect the Morrigan on Morrigan with crows, ravens, etc. I read it like this, and I read it like this is the focus. Well, I lay it out in a row like that, and then this is the main focus. This is the near past, near future, far past, far future. That's kind of how I read it. So, and of course, I only use this when I'm commuting with on Morgan, but there we go. And I also have this little Alice in Wonderland little mini. This is from Tea with Karen, I believe. And these are tiny, and I love tiny little decks like this. But this would, and I don't know how many cards are in here. Not a lot. Less than 36. So I might lay out all of these to do a tableau style reading with this one. Let's see, I've got 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't remember how many are in here, so I'm just kind of laying it out what makes sense here. All right, I got 37, so maybe I would lay out I would lay out 36 cards, and I'd probably do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 25. 25 cards. Okay, so I could do a 5 by 5 with this. I was counting 36 in my head. But, like, we could do a 5 by 5 with this, you know, and there you go. And then bring these down here. I've already messed this up. You get the idea. You know, with this... There. You know, this is all messed up, but you know, this is a 5 by 5 using these Alice in Wonderland cards. And now these connect with tea leaf reading, so these are tea leaf reading cards. It's just Alice in Wonderland themed. So I mean, that is, and I love how tiny these tiny cards like this. I love to do tableau style readings with these multiple cards, laying it out, and yeah, I love little tiny cards like this. All right. Okay, so that is it for this video. This is my first video on Tableau/grid style reading, and I will do follow-up videos. So if there's anything specific you guys want to know more about, or how I do things, or how I might do a layout like this or a spread like this, please let me know down in the comments, and I am really happy to do some follow-up videos on this. I hope this all made sense. I hope I wasn't too scattered with this. So let me know down below how you like this, and if you want to see more of these videos talking about Tableau/grid style reading. All right, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!